Morning, people. I want to take a little bit of time here and talk to you about Edward Snowden and whoever it was that leaked this information from the NSA in regards to the United States government's ability for hacking. Personally, I think Trump should pardon Edward Snowden for releasing the information about PRISM and all his other information that he released about what the government was doing with this information. I was never a big fan of the Patriot Act. As a matter of fact, I was screaming at people at the top of my lungs whenever Bush even proposed it. We all know what the government does. You give the government a little bit of power, and then they manage to abuse it. It's always been that way. It always will be that way. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's no secret there. As far as this latest leak, talking about the tools that they've had, that's really no secret. Unless, and I'm pretty sure that they have better tools than what's out there available on Linux operating systems for free right now. But I don't know why somebody would risk their neck to go to prison for espionage over releasing, basically what, the toolkit that the government's doing. That's no secret. Last year, the Republican Congress tried to get a bill passed that would allow the NSA to have access to every American's browser histories. And they were told no. The bill was defeated. Thank God. It actually kind of sickens me to no end that that's what they want. And they're using national security as a guise to do this stuff. They're saying, the data mining that the NSA is doing. The access to browser histories, so that they said that they can run it through an algorithm so they can find lone wolf terrorists. When they come out and they say that all this information that they've had in the past has never been able to prevent the lone wolf terrorist attack. Well, if the information that you have, if you're gathering intel on every American and processing it, and you're not able to find the terrorists in this country before they strike, then why do don't say that you need more information about what every American's doing. You need better tools. You need better people that do the job. It does sicken me that they use national security as an excuse to spy on the American people. We're not any safer now than we were before 9/11. We just have no privacy now. The Patriot Act had nothing to do with national security, not on the standpoint of preventing terrorists, but it did have everything to do with spying on the American people. Obamacare is the same way. That had nothing to do with health insurance. That had everything to do with the government getting your medical records, so that way they have access to how many Americans are taking antidepressants or whatever, which Pat Toomey turned around a couple years ago and tried to put together a list of medications that would permanently disqualify you from owning a firearm. The problem with that information was that over half of the American people had actually taken those medications at one point in time in their lives or another, considering that, you know, a lot of people in this country are depressed or suffer from depression at one point in time in their life, and a lot do seek medications to help them get through it. And that should have been the huge red flag about what Obamacare was really about, and yet nobody picked up on it. And as far as the Russians influencing the election, damn straight they influenced the election as much as they could, especially with Hillary Clinton running. Putin said that he was going to do everything in his power to make sure that Hillary Clinton did not win an election. That was announced before she even decided to run. And the reason for that was when Putin was running the first time for president of Russia, Hillary Clinton and the U.S. State Department did everything in their power to try to enable Putin's rival to succeed and win the Russian election. And he basically stated, if this is the game that you want to play, we're going to play it. Well, now Hillary Clinton and her left-wing band of lunatics is unable to accept the fact that she started this fight and she lost. The American people lost. We now have a foreign body interfering in our democratic process for picking our leaders. And that's Hillary Clinton's fault. But you won't hear the left-wing media or the liberal and left-wing media even mention that. I don't even think they even mentioned the fact that as Secretary of State, that she interfered in Russian elections. And it's been proven that she has, and Obama has. Every time I hear Rachel Maddow on him and his lunatics on MSNBC and these fucktards on CNN talk about, you know, the Russian ties to Trump. There are no Russian ties to Trump. I'm pretty sure Trump and Putin had communicated in the past. I mean, the man's got property and buildings in Russia and all over the world. He has to communicate and do whatever he has to do in order to get his buildings built via Rex Tillerson. That's what successful people do. The left needs to stop whining and crying about Russia. And what they should start doing is pointing the finger at Clinton and saying, you know what, Clinton, this is your fault. Your inability to run an election and listen to your people and your husband about who to target in the primaries and the general election. Your inability to do your job properly as Secretary of State led to your defeat. That's all for today. God bless.